All right, guys. So you guys have seen me talk about the books and reference Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers a lot. And one of the things that I learned over 10 years ago when I had first got into sales was that there's very few people that are willing to pay the price to become good at what it is they want to achieve. In fact, most people die at the age of 25 and they'll get buried until the age of 65. And so if you want to stay through the end of this video, I want to tell you what's going to happen. Okay, I'm going to be sharing with you guys briefly nuggets that literally changed my life. And if you guys are serious, the things that can happen as well the minute you start investing in your mind and into your life. So if you haven't done so already, be sure to like and subscribe. I drop content that is stuff that I personally do, things that have personally happened in my life that I believe that if I share with you can also have the same effects for you, and it's going to be impactful for you as well. And so what did I learn? I never forget listening to the very first time I heard this information, and it was regarding a Chinese bamboo tree, right? Chinese bamboo tree, it takes actually 5 years for the tree to start sprouting and growing to a height well over 100 feet. Okay, and so the thing with these Chinese bamboo trees is that when you're watering it daily, you can't see the tree growing above the ground, right? Because in order for a tree to actually have this height, it must be deep rooted in the foundation. Why? Because in order for it to stand and sustain the heavy winds and the heavy rain and all the other, aspects of nature that go on above the surface, it must be deep rooted. And so the structure of this plant or this tree, I should say, understands that. And it doesn't rush the process. Now, how does that relate to this book Malcolm Gladwell wrote, Outliers? I reference this a lot. In this book, he begins to describe what makes successful people so successful. And obviously, as an outlier, they're essentially a unicorn. And the process is essentially 10,000 hours. And, the theory is that if you work on a thing for 10,000 hours, that you will be very good over the process of 10,000 hours. And so the very first time I heard that, I think I was about 23 years old. And I was like, man, you mean I gotta wait 5 years? Oh man. Because I wanted to be good overnight like most of you guys, right? And ladies, right? I want to be good overnight. I just want to be good. And I hadn't paid the price. I hadn't paid my dues. I hadn't done the work. I hadn't gone through all the headache, frustration, wanting to quit, wanting to give up, day in, day out. So what I discovered was that in order to be good at something, it's not about talent. No, it's not about resources. No, it's about the person or the people who are willing to pay the price. So maybe you're sitting there saying, hey, I'm not the best person on the phone. Believe it or not, I'm not the best person on the phone. You may have heard a couple calls that I've made. Listen, I'm not the best person on the phone. I know that 100% of the time. But what I do know is that I'm willing to go up against whoever it may be, toe to toe. I don't care, on the phone, because I know what I'm going to do. Okay? And I know that I'll never give up. That's what helped me get better at sales. See, my mindset was the turtle. I wasn't the person that sprints out of the gate, right? But I knew that a turtle will always complete the race, okay? Most people who go, I would say blazing out of the gate, they usually get what? Sidetracked or distracted. Why do they get distracted? Because to them, they feel like this is too easy, this is too simple, okay? And many of them never finish the race. So for you, let me ask you a question. When it comes to the 10,000 hours rule, right? Where are you along your process? Maybe you're brand new. You haven't even gotten started yet. Maybe you were like me. You're working in sales right now. You're doing something that's completely different, but you know that, listen, you can make money doing anything, right? Maybe it's SMMA, maybe it's growing your agency, maybe it's doing something that's gonna help you go to another level, right? What I found is that the price that I was paying, okay, over those years had actually led me to the point where I was able to discover and learn new things about myself along the process of growing my SMA agency. What are some of the things, Mike? I discovered that in order to grow, you have to put a good amount of pressure on yourself, almost like pouring water, right? On that Chinese bamboo tree. It takes a lot of effort every day to plant, to water it, and to not see anything, and to just have belief that if you keep doing it and doing it and doing it, that this tree will grow, because you don't see anything above the surface. But what you don't realize is that in order for you to grow, not 10 feet, not 20 feet, not 30 feet, no, over 100 feet into the air, you have to be deep rooted. So when people call you, or when you call up a business and somebody says no, or they're not interested, or they say something nasty to you, it just, boom, flicks off your shoulder. Why? Because you're deep rooted. Or when you have a client that signs up with you and for whatever reason they don't get the results that they want, and they say, listen, this isn't going to work anymore, it flicks off your shoulder. Why? Because you're deep rooted. Right? Or when you have an outsourcer that for whatever reason just gives up on you, or you have a salesperson that for whatever reason just says, listen, I'm not coming into work tomorrow. I'm taking off. I'm done. This is not for me anymore. And you're the owner of an agency and you are counting on them. It flicks off your shoulder. Why? Because you're deep rooted. See, some of you don't understand that the process that you're going through right now needs to occur in order for you to grow to your 100 feet. Let me say that again. The process that you're going through is the day-to-day, the watering the seed, the plant every single day. It's making the calls every day. It's discovering the new outsourcers every day. It's saying, I'm going to learn something new today, every day, over an extended period of time. And what are you doing? You are clocking those hours, over 10,000 hours. And so now, when you grow to that 100-foot tree, it's as if it occurred overnight. But it wasn't overnight. It was night by night. And so to everyone else, it's almost like, how? You see, that's the thing. That's the thing with the Chinese bamboo tree. It's almost like, how? How did this big tree just occur? I didn't even see it happening. How? Because it was deep rooted. See, some of you are not deep rooted. You're still thinking. You're still putting all these ideas in your head. One day you want to do SMMA. The next day you want to do Shopify. The next day you want to do, renting cars. Next day you want to have a local service business. Next day you want to do this. Next day you want to go back to school. Every day it's a new thing. And you haven't planted anything. And so you can never have what? Growth. You can never have what? Fruit. You're not deep rooted. That's why the saying is, if you stick and stay, you will get your pay. And some of you don't realize that you're not deep rooted. And so I'll never forget, I told you guys a story. When I walked into that office, to the average person who was quote unquote looking for a job, they would have immediately walked out. Why? because it was a small room, it was a small office. There was nothing quote unquote fancy about it. But to the person who knows what the apple, oh no, let me take that back. To the person who knows what the seed looks like, then they understand what the harvest could be. But for those of you that want the harvest without the right planting of the seed and the type of seed in the right environment, nope, doesn't work that way. You have to see it in order to believe it. And so I was waiting for that moment. That was basically, I think I was about 27. So let's go through the numbers. I'm coming up real close to this 5th year mark. Real close. And that's when I had what I would call my tipping point, because that's when I was my absolute best in sales, absolute best in, being on the phone, working with clients. But it took all that growth, all that time, all that process to get there. And some of you, what you're doing is you're trying to rush the process. Now, don't get me wrong. You can rush the process all you want, but don't matter how much water you put on that Chinese bamboo tree seed, it's going to take 5 years. Now, you hear me talk about compressing time frames. How does compressing time frames relate to this Chinese bamboo tree? Okay, well, if you want to compress time frames, you're going to, have to put more time in. You ever heard that saying that there's no holidays, there's no weekends, there's no days off? Well, guess what? You tell me, Mike, I work 40 hours a week, I work 50 hours a week, 60 hours a week. Well, guess what? All that other time, you have to quantify if you want it. And if you want to compound that time, you have to quantify it, right? And so listen, guys, I don't want to be much longer, but I really wanted to give you guys some of the stuff. See, this is the behind the scenes, right? You gotta fix on what's going on the inside. What's the inside is your mind. If you don't have your mind right, nothing else is gonna manifest for you in the way that you want. Because if your thinking is off, forget about it. Your mind encompasses everything that you're running and doing with your agency and in your life. And if you're not deep rooted, if one person who says no to you is going to throw you off your game, it was never going to happen anyway. It was just a mystical thought in your mind, right? And that's the harsh truth, okay? But if you're saying, hey, listen, I don't care how many no's I get, how many people reject me, how many times something doesn't work out. You guys don't even know the story. The story that my mastermind team, they knew the story. Anything you could imagine happened to go wrong. Those first 6 months of me building my agency, it occurred. It occurred, but I was deep rooted. Nothing was going to tear me from the objective and the goal that I wanted to achieve. Nothing. But so what I'm saying to you is that if you really want to achieve that goal, hitting 10K a month, hitting 20K a month, you have to be deep rooted. You can't be deviating and thinking about all the distractions of life. No, you have to be deep rooted. Okay? All right, guys, listen, I hope this video has been helpful to you. If you need a strategy call, you want to book a time with me, who's a strategy call, Mike? A strategy call is for those of you that are having a couple hiccups and hurdles in your business and you want to overcome those hurdles fast. You don't want to think about it. You want to overcome those hurdles fast so you can have success. And then for those of you that are looking for a coach, what's the coaching call, Mike? The coaching call is for those of you that don't want to guess. You want a coach. You want someone to point you in the right direction. You want someone to work with you one-on-one over the next 5 weeks, get you from 0 to hero. And then obviously I give you guys lifetime access because you're going to have some questions. And right there, over the next 90 days, you're going to see for yourself the drastic growth you have in your business. All right, guys, I'll see you next time.